Calaroga Shark Media. Hello and welcome to Ghost, Scary Stories. This episode is titled 8 Nights of Terror, Episode 1, The Whispering Walls.
The old Victorian mansion loomed before Sarah, its weathered facade a stark contrast to the meticulously manicured garden surrounding it. As she stepped out of her car, the gravel crunching beneath her feet, a chill ran down her spine despite the warm October afternoon. The Blackwood House bed and breakfast had a reputation, one that Sarah was here to debunk. "Welcome to Blackwood House," a cheery voice called out. An elderly woman, her silver hair neatly pinned back, bustled down the front steps. "You must be Sarah. I'm Margaret, the owner." Sarah forced a smile, hefting her weekend bag onto her shoulder. "Nice to meet you, Margaret. Thanks for having me on such short notice." "Oh, it's our pleasure, dear. We don't get many guests this close to Halloween. Most are too spooked by the stories." Margaret's eyes twinkled with amusement. "Well, that's why I'm here," Sarah replied, following Margaret into the house, "to get to the bottom of those stories." The interior of Blackwood House was a time capsule of Victorian opulence. Ornate wallpaper, heavy velvet curtains, and antique furniture filled every room. As they climbed the creaking staircase to the second floor, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Here we are, the Rose Room," Margaret announced, pushing open a heavy oak door. "It's said to be the most active room in the house." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Active?" Margaret's smile turned mysterious. "Oh, you know, things moving on their own, strange noises in the night. Nothing to worry about, I'm sure." As Margaret left her to settle in, Sarah began unpacking her equipment, cameras, audio recorders, and an EMF meter. She was a seasoned investigator of paranormal claims, having debunked dozens of so-called hauntings for her popular blog, Skeptic's Corner. Blackwood House was just her latest target. The sun had set by the time Sarah finished setting up. She decided to do a preliminary walkthrough of the house, camera in hand. The empty hallways seemed to stretch endlessly, shadows dancing in the dim light of wall sconces. As she passed a particularly dark corner, a whisper tickled her ear. Sarah whirled around, heart pounding, but saw nothing. "Just the wind," she muttered, trying to steady her nerves. Back in her room, Sarah reviewed the footage. Nothing unusual except, there in the corner of the frame, a shadow moved against the wall. She leaned closer, squinting at the screen. It almost looked like a person, but that was impossible. She'd been alone in the hallway. A soft thud from the wall beside her bed made Sarah jump. She pressed her ear against the floral wallpaper, listening intently. Another thud, followed by what sounded like scratching. "Hello?" Sarah called out, feeling foolish. "Is someone there?" Silence answered her. Sleep came fitfully that night, Sarah's dreams filled with shadowy figures and echoing whispers. She woke with a start, the bedside clock glowing 3:33 a.m. The room felt oppressively still, the air thick and heavy. Then she heard it, a woman's voice, so faint she might have imagined it. "Help me." Sarah sat up, fumbling for her camera. "Hello, who's there? Please, help me." The voice seemed to come from inside the wall. Sarah pressed her hand against the cool wallpaper, and to her shock it gave way slightly. Heart racing, she ran her fingers along the edge of the wall until she found a small catch. With a soft click, a hidden door swung open, revealing a narrow passage. Sarah hesitated only a moment before grabbing her flashlight and squeezing into the secret corridor. Cobwebs clung to her hair as she inched forward, the beam of her light revealing years of dust and neglect. The passage twisted and turned, leading deeper into the house's hidden infrastructure. Sarah's skin crawled with each step, the air growing colder and mustier. Finally, the corridor opened into a small room, bare except for a simple bed frame and a dusty vanity. "Hello?" Sarah called out, her voice trembling. "Is anyone here?" A flicker of movement caught her eye. In the cracked mirror of the vanity, a figure appeared behind her, a young woman in a maid's uniform, her face pale and drawn. Sarah spun around, but the room was empty. When she looked back at the mirror, the apparition was gone. Heart pounding, Sarah stumbled back into the passage, desperate to return to her room. But in her haste, she took a wrong turn, becoming hopelessly lost in the maze-like structure of the walls. "Margaret!" she called out, hoping the owner might hear her. "Anyone? I'm stuck in here!" Only silence answered. Sarah slumped against the wall, trying to calm her racing thoughts. As she did, her hand brushed against something carved into the wood paneling. Shining her flashlight on it, she saw a message scratched into the surface. "Beware the master." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. What had happened in this house? Who was the master, and what had they done to inspire such a warning? Just then, a scraping sound echoed through the passage. Sarah held her breath, listening intently. It was getting closer, a slow, deliberate noise, like something being dragged across the floor. Panic rising in her throat, Sarah began to run, no longer caring which direction she went as long as it was away from that sound. She rounded a corner and slammed into something solid, a scream escaping her lips. "Sarah? Good heavens! What are you doing in here?" It was Margaret, looking bewildered in a floral dressing gown. Behind her, an open panel in the wall revealed the main hallway of the second floor. I found a hidden door in my room," Sarah stammered, relief flooding through her. "I heard a voice, and then I got lost and—" Margaret's expression darkened. "Oh dear, I was afraid this might happen. Come, let's get you a cup of tea. There's something I need to tell you." In the kitchen, hands wrapped around a steaming mug, Sarah listened as Margaret revealed the true history of Blackwood House.
Miami. Neon dreams. Dark desires. A killer stalks the streets, turning murder into macabre art. Introducing a new limited series podcast from Calaroga Shark Media. The Artist, A Killer's Canvas. This podcast is rated R, intended for mature audiences. The Artist, A Killer's Canvas. Available on all podcast apps now.
The mansion had once belonged to a cruel man, Edmund Blackwood, who had a reputation for abusing his staff, particularly the young maids. One maid, Elizabeth, tried to escape. Margaret explained, her voice low. She used these hidden passages to avoid Edmund, but he caught her. No one knows exactly what happened, but Elizabeth was never seen again. Sarah's mind raced, connecting the dots. The ghost I saw, that must have been Elizabeth. But why is she still here? What does she want? Margaret sighed heavily. I don't know, dear, but ever since I inherited this house, I've felt her presence. I think she's trying to warn us about something, or someone. A loud crash from upstairs made them both jump. Sarah's eyes widened in fear. What was that? I don't know, Margaret whispered, but I have a terrible feeling we're about to find out. As they crept up the stairs, the air grew noticeably colder. Sarah's breath came out in visible puffs, and she could see Margaret shivering beside her. The door to the rose room stood ajar, a faint blue light pulsing from within. Sarah pushed the door open wider, gasping at the sight before her. The room was in disarray, furniture overturned, and her equipment scattered across the floor. In the center of the chaos stood a translucent figure, Elizabeth, the ghostly maid, her eyes wide with terror. He's coming, Elizabeth's voice echoed in Sarah's mind. You must stop him. The ritual on Halloween night. Don't let him complete it. Before Sarah could respond, Elizabeth's form flickered and vanished, leaving behind only a bone-deep chill and more questions than answers. Margaret gripped Sarah's arm tightly. What does it mean? Who's coming? Sarah shook her head, her skepticism warring with the undeniable evidence of what she'd just witnessed. I don't know, but I think we have until Halloween to figure it out. As they stood there, surrounded by the aftermath of supernatural activity, Sarah realized her simple ghost hunting expedition had turned into something far more dangerous. The real mystery of Blackwood House was just beginning to unfold, and she had a sinking feeling that she was now deeply entangled in whatever sinister plot was brewing. Outside, a figure watched the illuminated windows of Blackwood House from the shadows of the garden. A slow, wicked smile spread across its face. The pieces were falling into place, and soon, very soon, everything would change. The grandfather clock in the hall began to chime, marking the start of a new day, October 24th. 1 week until Halloween. 1 week until the veil between worlds would be at its thinnest. 1 week for Sarah to uncover the truth and stop whatever dark forces were stirring within the walls of Blackwood House. The game was on, and the stakes were higher than she could have ever imagined.
Ghost is a Calaroga Shark Media production, written and hosted by Alexander Ian McIntyre, produced by Mark Francis, executive producers Mark Francis and John McDermott. Portions of this podcast may have been created with the assistance of AI.
This show, along with hundreds of others from Calaroga Shark Media, is available commercial-free on any player, hassle-free. Just look for the link in the episode or show notes. Ghost now has merch. Find shirts, mugs, and more with the Ghost logo for sale at our merch store. There's free shipping and 10% off now with the coupon NEWMERCH10. Did we say there's free shipping? Check out all the goods at calaroga.com, that's CALOROGA.com, or just look for the link in the show notes. Thanks for supporting the show, we really appreciate it.
Calaroga Shark Media.